So Radim, thank you very much for having a chat with us today. For anyone who's unaware of who you are, what you do, would you mind just giving a little bit about yourself?
Thanks for having me. Already started the podcast bingo. Thanks for having me. Pleasure to be here.
Already.
Yeah, I'm a Czech-born creative director, designer, speaker, author, and I run a company called Brand New, which can be found on the internet, brandnew.co.uk. And some people describe it as a micro agency, so the sole employee of the company is me, but there's a team of freelancers that help me to make the work that we sort of take on, working across all sorts of spectrum of design. Don't really have a sort of set style or certain industry that we'll be mainly working for, so it's all sorts of interesting things, working from entertainment industry to recruitment to museums, and all sorts of stuff. So it's very colourful because I like a kind of eclectic approach to life. So sure. It's more exploring design for what it is rather than be pigeonholed something that we try to sort of do over and over again. So yeah.
Awesome. So when did you set up Brand New?
I set up Brand New by accident in about 2004, but I didn't really have the right idea. Like I had no clients, no philosophy, no website. Kind of didn't really know what I was doing because I got kicked out of my job that I had before at that time, and I felt like gung ho, I'll go and just set up my freelance career. That felt fantastically. And the only thing that was good about it that I at that time was a DJ and I wanted to be a promoter, so I wanted to subsidize my non-existent design career with money from DJ gigs and from putting gigs on. And I just love this phrase as as English is my second language. I just always loved the expression brand new. Like, why is it brand new? So at that time there was new metal, there was new jazz, everything was NU, so like brand new sorted. So I wanted that to be initially the name of my my club night. Yeah. And my friend George was like, no one's gonna come to a club night called Brand New. All right. As my design got a bit better, and just adapted it as a name of my sort of design moniker at that time, because I thought you had to have design in the name or something. Yeah. I was like, whatever, design and that, and realized that when I opened a design week at that time, it was still a printed periodical. That everything was called everything else but design. So like Brand New suited me nicely, and luckily there was a domain name in 2004.
Wow.
Set it up and stuck with it, because with a name like mine in an English-speaking environment, you have to explain yourself quite a lot. So Brand New was kind of a nice umbrella. Yeah. Ever since. Little did I know that I would grow into that name more than ever 15 years later. So yeah, it was a nice little sort of trajectory.
Awesome. So in terms of you work with freelancers on a regular basis.
Yeah.
Have you ever thought about employing a team full time, or do you like the freedom of working with an expert in that field?
As a sort of control freak and being obsessive about what we can do as creatives, I was always in charge of every step of the way of the project. So creative direction, art direction, design, application, delivery, and it's all about that meaning of, like, if you do 12 different tasks on a project, it gives you a lot more bigger meaning of work rather than being one part of those 12 steps. So you get more out of it, so you feel more proud, and kind of makes you kind of want to go back again and just do more. So I used to do that for quite a long time, but I became a parent, and 2.5 years ago I've taken on projects that I needed to employ extra muscle. And right off the bat, I realized that you are an HR manager. Like, as soon as you start employing people, like, people come up with some quite bizarre reasons why they can't work that day. I'm like, I can't be cynical, of course. Like, we are all human and have to be empathetic, but equally, like, if you agree to do something, you have to stick with it.
Yeah. So you mentioned you're a recent parent. How has that had an impact on your work life or your work-life balance?
I think as creatives that we can work any hour of the day, like, we're never finished. and I enjoy being a parent because there's something else in life you have to do. Like, if you tell yourself as a freelancer, I'm going to do something else, I'm going to go to the gym and go down for a walk, you never do. You never do it. It's always there's always something to do. There's always something like to kill time, but to do yourself initiate. But as a parent, like that, this is the thing that you've got no excuse. Like you can't get out of it. Like, you have to do that first. And I absolutely adore like dropping off my child, my daughter, first thing in the morning, picking her up after work, knowing that I have to finish by a certain time, because I could easily be in the studio till 10 o'clock in the evening every day. With the parenting, I think it's just a nice balance because, as I said, there's no excuse, just like that. So I just love that it's kind of like the primary purpose. It inspires me to do other things. It kind of gives me a different mindset, different thinking. So every parent almost thinks about, okay, I'm a parent, what can I do to design or create better for being a parent? Because you've got different focus. So yeah, I love it. It's changed my life in the best possible way.
Amazing. So obviously you've had to put your work around that and sort of rearrange the way that you sort of live your day to day. But in addition to that, you've also become an author. Now, was that something that was always on the cards, or did it happen by accident? What was the idea behind that?
Yeah, it's been a slow burner, I would say. When I set up on my own, I wanted to have a physical folio to give to people in like smaller than an A5 brochure. That's how I started in 2007. I used to do lots of illustration at the time. Digital illustration was super popular. It was something that fed me and did really well for me. So I just used to create these flip books, literally low budget. The first one was solid stitched, sending it out, but it was there. Like, if people find art directors or whatever, like art editors, find it difficult to throw it away, so it was a door opener. So I started very sort of gradually to creating these little publications. We still call them books because that sounds a lot better. And I did 3 of these, and they were very much just about pictures alone first. One of them had, I think the second one had a little interview at the back, and my friend Luke, who was one of my clients and became a friend, he said, one of your books that I just read about you, and it was quite nice to, kind of to learn something about you. And as I say in my talks and in my books now, I've had to question the process of how we do this. Because having skills and ideas is one thing, but if you don't know how to conduct yourself, how to keep clients in check, how to do other things, it kind of, you might struggle to actually deliver the project. So I started doing public speaking in 2012. I had an idea of making the next book being kind of like a flip book again, more like a sort of, a showcase book. But I decided to write, I decided to share my, the highs and lows, the bads, the goods, the wins, the losses, and kind of open the doors to how I work, not necessarily visually, but like what goes behind the scenes, because we're in this beautiful industry full of glory hunters that make you believe shit's easy, but it's not, it's the opposite. So I was making notes about just motivational quotes or anecdotes and kind of ideas that I wanted to kind of get deeper meaning into it, because we are bombarded by Facebook philosophers or Instagram philosophers. Everyone's got a quote to share, but it's very much a passing commodity. Like, we just go, lovely quote, done. What the nitty gritty of work is different. So I made years of notes, and then when my daughter was about to be born, or when I knew she was coming, and I was very naive, thinking I'll finish the book when she comes round, and everyone said, you better, you better crack on now. So I did, and actually wrote and published the book in 3 months, and I wanted to do it all by myself, because that was, if I was to do it the traditional way, I would be waiting for a book contract for a very long time. You have to be either famous or dead in this industry to have a book about yourself. So I'm luckily neither of the things, especially not the latter. So I just decided, well, I can make it happen myself. I can do this. So there's a lot of information on the internet. You can learn how to make a atomic bomb much easier than you can find a recipe for spaghetti and make a nuclear bomb. So that's easy. So I went on I needed extra view in of how to make self-publishing happen. And it was the best decision ever not to go with traditional publishing, because I had to grow a different business. I grew a different skill, or I don't know, just it was a view into a different world, just kind of using my design skills and using the experience to kind of put together a publication that tries to give people a different view in of who we are behind that portfolio, what's there, what makes us laugh and cry and despair and celebrate. That's the kind of thing that's about a way in. So it was a natural progress. If I hadn't started some 10, 11 years ago making these small books, it would be very daunting to come up with a title that would be what those books become.
Absolutely. So was it very important for you for it to be a book and something tangible rather than, say, be a website? Because you could very easily have put together a blog or a vlog even, that a lot of people are doing, a lot of people are sort of pushing this out. Was it important for you to have something physical?
I think as designers, like, we've got a love affair with the physical thing. So it's I mean, you can hold it, you can touch it, you can do so many things with it. So I made sure that the books that I've been making now for general release, that they feel delightful, that there's a smell, touch, there's I mean, the best bit about it is I invented my own dream future, because no one told me the book couldn't be something.
Yeah.
I was like, it can be anything I want. I had to spend a lot of time validating it, that what goes in it, and what's the sense, what's the rhythm, what's the ideas, like what's the structure. So yes, I could have made the first book better or different, but in the way that I made it made it more interesting, because it was like that first album,
Absolutely.
Pearl Jam can't go and re-record the first album, nor Nirvana, whoever, especially not Nirvana, for obvious reasons. But yeah, it's just, you know what I mean, it's encapsulated body of work, and it stands for something, and you can miss so much on people's websites, like there's that amazing JPEG of what you're most proud of, but that's 17th project, 1750 down.
Yeah.
Like, you get someone on the phone, like, okay, so click there, click there, that's the one, yeah. So scroll down, keep scrolling. You got that one, and you got that, and that's what usually happens. So giving people your body of work in a printed format, it opens up so many possibilities, because people they can throw it away, but they really struggle to throw it away, just because you give them something that is of a value. And then you can say, page 187, there's only one page 187, that's the project we want to talk about.
So you released the first book. Was it always the case that you were going to release another one afterwards?
No, absolutely not. I did the first book, as I said, in 3 months, haphazard, managed, literally learned every step. Not like, I knew how to put together a book, I knew how to design a book, I knew how, like, that kind of bit was fine, but to create that article, that product is only the first step. Like, everything else afterwards is the real publishing world. And it was fascinating, because when I finished the book and I launched it, I was like, never again. I will never do this again. Because it was a bit of a crazy process, because it was so condensed. I wasn't sure what I was doing, and I was like, I'm not gonna do this again anytime soon. But just like I've learned from the music artists I work with, they work hard on an album, and then you don't want to listen to it for 6 months. Like, you are so done with it, and then I've got an idea for a couple of songs, and that was the same with the book. I used to have this experience with my friend Frank, who literally, the book wasn't even out yet. He had an advanced copy. He was like, I look forward to reading the next one. I'm like, dear Frank, it will never happen. But 3 months later, I was like, maybe I can do an extended version, I can do something else, because the dust settled. People, actually, the feedback and the response was, when's the volume 2 coming out?
Yeah.
And I'm like, I guess soon. And I've revisited that mindset, and this time I took a lot difficult second album, which wasn't really difficult to make. Obviously, now being as a parent and having life in the way, you've got different challenges. So I try to make sure, with the rules of efficiency, I find 2 hours on a plane to ride, or on a train journey, or 5 a.m. when everyone's still asleep, maybe I just sneak out and just ride, and find more enjoyment because I've done it once before, crazily, and now finding that process in it again and go, okay, I know more, I write more, I wrote a bit more, and I knew how to work with the copy editor, I knew how to work with the content, and knew how I had a structure from before, so I didn't have to invent the design.
Yeah.
And that was actually enjoyable. It was like, oh wow, like it's here. Okay, I can do this again, and really enjoyed it. And what was really interesting, the feedback I had from people, they were like, already? You got a second book already? I'm like, I'm a big music fan. If my favourite artist doesn't release an album every year, I'm very upset.
Yeah, absolutely.
So the industry we're in, it's a living and breathing subject. Like, so much changes all the time. Technological advances, the way we work, there's new job titles, and there's all sorts of different things. But see, from a point of a designer, yes, everything evolves, and it's, if you're very open to it, like if you question your process, and if you try to see like how you can do constantly better things, there's then stuff to say. So yeah, I mean, it was nice to be kind of asked to do more.
Yeah.
And then to be almost like to be told that people appreciate for me taking the time of writing a second volume, because the first one meant a lot to people. Because, as I said, as you know, the book is structured in different sections about productivity, about creativity, and mind section, where I share the experiences about mental health, about how we should look after ourselves, how we should stop looking for happiness, and all sorts of things like that are kind of like there's almost like taboos in that industry, because it's all about like the shiny portfolios, the talks about how amazing we are, but that's very much misleading way of who we are in this industry.
How do you tackle social media, and how does that play a part in your sort of your business and in the way that you promote these books?
Yeah, I had the best time when I was working on the first book. I did an experiment of switching everything up for 2 months, and after 2 months, I was happy just being like just taking calls, checking my email occasionally, and that was so liberating. It was so good because an experiment, because I call that chapter clarity versus fog, and quite poignantly, it was that sort of time of the autumn where, the pressure and the whatever times of the day when you've got real fog in the morning. It's just like that I could see the trees, but behind that was the fog, and I felt like social media was just so busy and kind of just diluted thoughts. You're like, why am I looking at this? What value is it actually got for me to add to my life? So I kind of tried to stay away from it, but when I published my book, I was under the impression I had to be back on social to promote it, and yes, that is one means of doing so. However, when you think of a traditional way of promotion, there was no social media when Led Zeppelin came out, or when Ozzy Osbourne's first album came out. There was advertising, there was print media, there was marketing, and that's how you get the work out there. So I felt I had to be present, but I try not to be a slave to it. I do broadcast, and I try to interact as much as possible as is within my allowed time for social media, because as the guy who wrote the book called Deep Work, if you create something great, people spread the message for you. Obviously, I'm not as known as Led Zeppelin or whoever, so obviously there's work to do, but it's done through forms of advertising and clever marketing and giving away book sampling and stuff, like how to get people to talk about it and how to find a traditional way to find out about it, because the habits are changing. When I published my first book, people did me a huge favor by promoting it on their Instagram walls. Now everyone's curated their walls because we've got Instagram stories, so people snap it and say, oh, fantastic book, but in 24 hours the Instagram story disappears. So you have to reinvent lots of ways of how to reach people, how we get organic reach for people. Also, second time around, I found it was harder to get press for the book. And I thought, well, how do other people do it? Like because it's tedious to be kind of new book, and they're like, I'm sure we don't have to help you again. Like, I'm sure we'll do fine. And I kind of feel like it's more creating a direct narrative direct narrative with the readers, direct narrative with people who like the work, just because that's how bands do it. If you remember, like every CD you bought in the 90s or 2000s, there was the leaflet for, was it Leon Spa, whatever, like every fan club had like a Leon's, and that's what they did. They had a direct readership, and that's what changes. So whilst you broadcast into a very wide space of billions of people, you really want to kind of make connections with a few who will become true fans and who will actually understand what your message is. And it's what more. I mean, if I know a bit of people who've got, like, let's say 1,000 followers, and they're very distraught because they haven't got 50,000 followers. Yeah. But out of 50,000 followers, you get 49,000 people who don't even know who you are because they subscribed to your channel years ago or whatever, so they don't pay attention. So it's fine to have more engaged community rather than just lots of noise that just goes above people's heads.
Absolutely. And you're going to a lot of talks at the moment. You're doing a lot of talks, touring around, actually meeting people rather than just sort of sending out an email newsletter or posting a few pictures on Instagram. You're actually getting out there and sort of seeing how is the new book being received, especially with the students and the upcoming designers.
I think it will never get old to get when I get a message from a student or from a novice or even from like a seasoned pro who appreciate the tone of voice, who appreciate the message. And I talk very openly about anxiety and mental health because it has played a huge part in one sort of era of my life. Yeah. And when out of all the thousands of titles on the graphic design shelf, people say your book made the biggest difference into my career, it blows my mind because I didn't write it with that in mind. It was just an outburst of experience and anecdotes and kind of like and experience and living through creative life. So I didn't have that proposition of I'm going to change someone's life. Yeah, it was more like, this is what I've done. Hope you see something in there. So the second book is I feel there's a more solid offering. It's got more case studies and it's got better rhythm, and I'm gonna rewrite the first book in the same way. So there's more compact in there because luckily we're selling that out of the current stock, so it gives me a kick up the ass to do it. Yeah. But it's amazing to see fantastic feedback. Mm-hmm. It's entertaining to see negative feedback because nothing's for everyone. But when people say, okay, when is the next one out? I'm like, well, you've only had a new book for 3 days. I mean, it takes a couple of years to make now. So it's definitely giving me an amazing inspiration to keep going because I never thought I would have a product in the world because as designers, we are always good as our last piece of work. And then we go again and again and again and make sure that there's always enough to do. Yeah. But with the product and kind of having a more way in of growing a mailing list with a meaning and having a sort of direct relationship with readers, it makes it a lot more satisfying because you're having a two-way conversation rather than just spewing out lots of endless daily pictures and content that goes above people's heads.
Absolutely. So when is the next book going to come out?
Wow. So the updated version of Volume 1 is going to come out depending how quick I need to do it. If the Christmas is popular, then it will be very soon, maybe as soon as sort of spring next year.
Awesome.
Yeah, I mean the basic content from the book stays. It's just there's going to be extra case studies and extra couple of chapters. Sure. Just to make it all even and balanced. And the next book is planned for March 2020, which is a book about branding and identity design. And this time it's kind of like my manual how I do these things, kind of debunking the myths of being a logo designer versus a branding designer and benefits and how to conduct yourself in meetings, how to do better meetings, how to sell your design better in a way, like how to be an all-rounded article. And again, it's how I've done it, like how I've grown in the last 15 years from start to finish. So interesting thing was that I had an idea, like I don't want to write another book of ideas just yet, but I had an idea and I just literally woke up at 5 a.m. because I was, as soon as I finished my book, and it's been published, like it's gone out there in print. I felt a bit at loss because I was waking up at 5 a.m. but I was doing nothing else than just looking on Instagram thinking I'm just killing my time. So I wrote notes for the new book, and I wrote like 45 chapters in one sitting. I mean, they're all rough ideas,
Sure.
and they will find a place of like how the process works. But again, it goes from observation of how people think, react, behave. I'm on an outskirts of some sort of logo design groups on Facebook and stuff, and you see it's quite amusing to see everyone making the same mistake like we've all done. You know,
Yeah.
we all led clients to take whatever, a charge of a project where they shouldn't have done, and we were not assertive enough, and we didn't really instigate a proper process, and now you do 7 different logo variations pretty much for nothing. You know, it's just that kind of thing. So I now enjoy the challenge. You know, when people try to challenge in a meeting, like, so what ideas have you got? I'm like, I've been here for 5 minutes, you know. I'm not a superhero. Like, I mean, we all have to take time, you know. If you ask a scientist, like, what's the answer to this scientific problem? He's not going to sit there like, of course, yeah. No, he's going to take time and think of it. So again, for example, that's another skill and challenge we need to learn as creatives. Like, we are not. Well, we don't have to be superheroes. We can take time. We can say we don't know, because if I look at a tradesman rebuilding my house, like they work it out. No, they work it out. So this is a problem. Tell me when you're ready. And it's just the same thing, because we feel that as creative, running a creative career, you always have to please someone.
Yeah.
So you go extra mile for someone that don't particularly appreciate you, because we feel, I want to retain that client, but that client can be most of the time an arse that you don't really want to work with again, but you think that's money. But look after your soul, look after your well-being. Just like there's other millions of other people in the world. Just because we wait for the work to come to us, we feel it's going to dry up. But it's taking a proactive approach and make books, make videos like this, or make things that people will find and go, okay, nice people, let's talk to them. That's the kind of thing. So yeah. Those 2 books definitely are in the pipeline, and there's another few ideas that I'm going to do. I found myself also recently took me an idea of like a book, like a manual for a freelance career.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, that's exactly the reaction I get. I mean, I think it overlaps with the branding book, but it's again like there's so many books out there that are written from the top down. They're like, we run an amazing agency, this is how we've done it, you have to do the same thing. But if you got someone sat in an attic in somewhere in Portland, in America or wherever, or in Azerbaijan and something, like, you feel like the world is so far away from you. Like, you feel like, how is that good stuff possible? But again, it's baby steps. Loads of people are led to believe that if you're not producing amazing, high-profile client work tomorrow, you're a bit of a failure. But that's not true. Mm-hmm. Like, everyone's got time in the sun that's waiting for them. You enjoy it, and it should come back again. Because I tried to think of it like the money and happiness. When you got £200 a week, you spend £200 a week. When you got £1,000 a week, you spend £1,000 a week. But then if you get £10,000 a week, what do we all do? But the happiness is not way beyond that £1,000 a week. It's just like, so you go. You're like, I want amazing clients. Okay, you get amazing clients. So you've hit that benchmark straight away. And then that's again, and that's again, and that's again. So it doesn't make you particularly anywhere happier.
Yeah.
So it's like, how do you set yourself challenges? How do you set something that inspires you to actually keep going? Because that dopamine doesn't get replenished by doing the same thing over and over again. So,
Well, thank you very much for taking the time to speak to us today. And we can't wait for the next book.
Yeah, thanks very much for having me. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Cheers.